Happiness Palace 1, and we can cut across live for this enlightening in conversation session.
Have like an armed struggle. So he was the leader of the resistance, of the armed resistance in Brazil. And so when we decided to make a film about him back in 2013, the idea was just to make a film that would bring his, because Marighella was erased from our history, right? I mean, the history is told by the ones who are in power. So his name was completely erased from the history. So the idea of in the beginning, the idea was just to give that name back to the imaginary of the Brazilian population. But then, considering what's going on in Brazil and the way things are, the film became not only a film about the ones who resisted back in the 60s, but it became a film about the ones who are resisting right now in the country.
It had a relevance, yeah.
And that's why the film is censored. So so yeah, so that was it's interesting how a film or a play, or how art is it's the idea of the ones who are doing it, but it's pretty much the interaction with its time, with the time that the thing is.
What do you think it is about a story like that, and perhaps the best stories, the best films that are intrinsically about a specific time and place, specifically place, rooted in rooted in a culture and a political climate that's very specific, and yet for it to have that sort of global resonance, because this is a film that, like we spoke, it premiered in Berlin, it's been traveling to festivals across, it's got great reviews. What quality do some of the best films share that make them global and that make them relevant to an audience that
isn't that amazing? It's that's the beauty of filmmaking. You know, I was in the jury last week. I was in Portugal, in the jury of the Lisbon Film Festival, and we gave the prize to this film that's also here. I'm amazed that every great film is here in the festival. It's a great festival
program, yeah.
and the programming is amazing. So we gave the award to a film from Tibet called Balloon. Have you seen this film?
No, I've heard.
It's a beautiful film. It's and I mean, if there is a culture that's different from Latin American culture, it's probably the Tibetan culture.
The other extreme.
It's so far, you know. So it's and yet I was completely connected to those characters and to what was going on with them in their lives and with this is the beauty of what we do. I mean, we go everywhere, and the films can be if they are made not in a superficial entertainment drive, but if they're made with to talk about people.
Right.
I mean, anyone can. We're all human beings, so regardless of your cultural background, you can just go there and enjoy. And that's why I love film festivals, because you have the opportunity to meet and talk to such interesting people like yourself, and and other filmmakers, and so yeah.
What was the? I mean, was it a big leap for you to direct this film yourself? Was that a whole different skill?
It was great. I'm gonna be very honest. It was great and organic. I was working with the crew that I have worked before many times. I was working with actors that I admire a lot. I'm 100% sure that directing is not difficult.
Right.
That acting is way more complicated than directing. Sometimes my actors were like, they were there working, and I was like, and they were exposing themselves, and I know how hard they were.
Right.
And I was like,
were you a more sensitive director?
I was like,
because
I was like, I'm so glad I'm not there, because it's acting. I think people suffer a lot when, when they do it, and directing is just about making people get together and see the same film and take the best of each one and take them to the edgy parts of their craft, and so it's awesome.
Has it made you a better actor? Do you feel like
I don't know. I don't know if it
Because you
made
haven't
me.
gone back to-
It made me. No, I did. I mean, after actually, I was in a big crisis because my actors are so good in the film that when the film that I did about this the diplomat
Right.
that I mentioned, when I was that was the thing that I did right after Marighella. I was like, I'm not that good. You know, I'm not, and oh my God, I'll never get to the level of these guys there, because yeah, I think that acting is really hard. I really do. That's why I don't work as an actor that often.
frequently.
If you see, I do something like one or two, one film per year, or maybe two if it's a lot.
You said that the film is on hold for now. What is is there an idea of what could happen with the film? Because you were telling me earlier that there is international distribution locked in, and yet you can't actually release it.
No, it's really sad. It's really sad. And my film is not an isolated situation. The culture in Brazil is under censorship, and no doubt about it. What the government did, the government infiltrated all the organisms of that finance
Yeah.
the public spaces that financed art in Brazil with their religious fanatism. And so, for example, anything you cannot do anything in Brazil about LGBT content. That's forbidden. You cannot talk about. Can you imagine this? The beauty of that country it's the diversity
Right.
of every country. But Brazil is a very diverse in terms of racially, in terms of religion, in terms of everything. You know, of genres, and then so so it's really sad. So as you said, my film the film was sold to many different countries. We had distributors everywhere, but these people, they cannot release the film in their countries if the film is not released in its home
country, right.
in its home country, which is a big actually also besides the symbolical problem of horror of censorship, there is also the financial aspect of it. So, but they are being very all the distributors, they are being very patient and comprehensive of the situation in the country.
Wagner, you're also a musician.
And I wouldn't say that. No.
No, but
I'm embarrassed to say this. No.
Are those disciplines and are those skills and are those passions and interests sort of interconnected? Do you feel like do you feel like a creative? These are different facets, and do you feel like this is that all of these expressions are in fact connected? I mean, how early did you become a musician?
I'm honestly not a musician, but I can play instruments. I can play the guitar, the drums, or the little keyboards, or the bass. I can play them, but I'm not a musician. When I'm in front of a musician, I go like this. This guy is a musician. I have this band, and I've been playing with this band since, oh man, since about 30 years.
You're a
almost.
musician, yeah?
But they are all like that, my friends of the band. So we are all very close, of course. They are from my hometown, Salvador, and they go like, so whenever I take the guitar and they go like, no, Wagner, you just sing. You just it's okay. Okay. And I go like, let me play it. No. And but I think that besides this global artistic thing that you mentioned, I think that I'm a result of my culture. And that's coming back to the Netflix thing where you can make things in your own language about your own culture, and about again the film from Tibet, that it's a very Tibetan, and so make it about yourself and about your little thing, and then it's gonna be universal for sure. So I think that I'm a result of the culture of my hometown, which is Salvador, which is a very interesting city in Brazil, which is the blackest city outside Africa. It's where so the African culture is really, really intense
Right.
in this place, and the way people behave. The music is really strong in there, especially in terms of drums. So I kind of feel that I'm part of, as an actor, I'm
Right.
kind of that, in terms of, I don't
Right.
even know how to.
Is this the best time for for artists globally?
Yeah.
Do you feel like what Netflix has done and what a lot of the OTT platforms have done have in fact sort of put talent from various parts, sort of have given them this sort of platform and given them this sort of showcase? Do you
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like this is the best time?
I think so. And I think that now with so now it's not only Netflix anymore,
Right, of
right?
course, it's not
now
just-
it's but till last
The-
year it was
correct.
basically Netflix, right?
Right.
So
now
we
it's-
can see how this changed,
changed,
fast.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now it's Amazon, Disney,
Apple, yeah.
HBO.
Right.
They all have their own
own-
streaming thing, and they are desperately in chase of content.
Right.
They want. I don't know. Is Netflix producing
They are,
here?
yeah.
In India,
I mean,
right?
right now as we speak, there's a little team that's at the international Emmys, because we've got a bunch of our actors who are nominated for their
Isn't
shows.
that
and film.
awesome?
That's awesome. Yeah.
So it's the new cultural globalization.
Right.
It's provoked by the streaming, which is something that we have to think about. It. I don't have yet. I'm only seeing the good part of it, which is work and international recognition for in cultural interchange. But we have to think about that. I think the university academy has to start to think about that properly.
Right. You said that you were not interested in a Hollywood career, and yet I must ask, when you look at other actors from the Latin world, when you look at Javier Bardem or Penelope Cruz, the ones that have broken out and the ones that work more frequently in the West. Not so much about the prestige, if you like, of being a Hollywood star, but the opportunities.
Yeah.
Is that something that that you hope to have?
Oh yeah, I think Javier is. Each one of us has. We have each person has its own path.
Of course.
Right? I mean,
Of course.
you cannot compare yourself
Right.
to other people, because anyone. I'm the guy who came from Salvador. I like politics. So I have my own way of in which, and that's the beauty of it. But I admire. I mean, and I root for, especially my Latin peers.
Right.
I had the opportunity. Javier is one of the best actors
Yeah.
in the world. I met him, and I was always talking to him and trying to to know about the works that I admire that he's done. Also Penelope, but in this film that I did, the Wasp Network, I have the opportunity to work with Gael Garcia
Yeah,
Bernal,
yeah.
who is an actor that I really, really
He's
admire,
incredible,
and I
yeah.
love the choices that he
That's right.
makes in his career. I'm good friends with Diego Luna, also Mexican. I worked with Edgar Ramirez from Venezuela.
Right.
Leonardo Visbaraglia from Argentina. So it's I root for their careers, because I think it's the Latinos are the most underrepresented group in Hollywood. So I really root for them, but I think that we all have different paths.
Sure. I want to ask you about. I want to ask you a question that I think we as Indians feel strongly about, and we often talk about why our actors aren't our creative community, because they have a voice and they have a following and they have an influence, obviously, and why they're not more sort of politically outspoken. And I see that you are. You're clearly. Do you feel like that's important to you, and do you feel like that's something that, in fact, is something that more people in that position should exercise?
Yes, but I really don't believe in. I think that people have to say something when they are ready for it,
Right.
and when they are, and that's, and, or when this is something that they really want to say.
Right.
You know, I don't believe I don't believe in pressure, into pressure people to
Right.
be something that they are really not.
Right.
You know, regardless of if the guy is an actor or whatever, you know, or any one of us. There is, for example, I never liked the pressure that the gay community put into homosexual actors so they can go out of the closet if they're not ready for it.
Right.
You know, you have to do it if this is going to be good for your life. Of, I mean, I say the things that I say because I would be very unhappy
If you didn't.
if I know that I have something to say and yet
You couldn't.
I couldn't. But there are people that really are not interested. So it depends on
So to take that further, do you feel like when one does have an opinion that one should exercise that? Do you feel like with, you know, the line from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility?
Yes, and but I do. But again, for example, I pay a big price.
Yeah.
For saying what the things that I say.
Right. And I do believe that that's one of the reasons why those that don't.
Yeah, yeah. It's a reason. So again, you have to do it if you're ready for the backlash.
Right.
You know, I'm good with it. You know, I can take it. But there are people that are not comfortable in doing it.
Right. This might seem like a flippant question, but I feel like it's important given the landscape. How has your job or your what you do changed because of social media?
Nothing, because I don't have it.
That's wonderful, isn't it?
I'm not interested in. I don't even know how the Facebook is.
Is there a lot of pressure? Was there initially?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time, especially when I was doing Narcos,
Right.
the Netflix people, they are all into social media. So, we open this account for you, don't have to do anything, we're gonna take care of it for you. And also, what's the point of it? You know, if I'm not taking care of it. So no, I'm not interested in that. I don't have Instagram or no, which sometimes I feel like in the political aspect of it, I wish I could have a platform where
Correct.
I could say whatever I want to say.
It's a megaphone, isn't it? Yeah.
I could say it and people would listen to it, but at the same time, when I see the Instagrams of even some friends of mine, I go
Right.
like, this is bullshit, man. You know, I'm not interested in this.
Do your kids feel differently?
Absolutely.
Wagner, when were you last starstruck? Did you have an experience where you were just really sort of
Sorry, when I lost what?
when you were last starstruck?
Starstruck.
In the company of someone that you greatly admired and felt completely tongue-tied, if you like. When was the last time you met one of your idols and felt, wow, this was...
Oh, Javier, like I was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, Javier, I was doing this film with Penelope, who I also admire a lot, and I was really happy to meet. But Javier was there taking care of the kids, and I'm really fascinated by his career. So it was great to hang out with him, you know, and talk to him. And recently, who else? I mean, I'm always meeting people that I was in Portugal. I had dinner with Wim Wenders, and I was talking to him, and he was, so Wagner, your film, and I was like, does he know who I am? Oh my God, you know, like that. And Costa Gavras, I just met Costa Gavras in Portugal too. Oh man, so man! I had lunch the other day with Willem Dafoe, which is not only one of a career that an actor has to take a look at.
Right.
Take a look at Willem Dafoe's career, right?
Right.
I mean, the amount of things that this guy has done, and the cool guy that he is. So I'm always meeting people that I. What's the expression you use?
Starstruck.
Starstruck.
Right. Do you know what the next gig will be? Do you know what you're doing next?
So I'm going to now. I'm going. I think you guys are gonna like it.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna direct Narcos now. I'm gonna direct 2 episodes
Nice.
of the next of the Mexican Narcos season. They invited me to direct it, and I was like, yeah, because I don't feel that I'm a director. I'm an actor that directed the film, more like, but I know the show very well. I know, I love the guys in there. We are friends, and yeah. So I think I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna release this film about Sergio Vieira de Mello in the beginning of the year. It's a film that I'm really proud of,
Right.
and I'm still struggling to, and I'm fighting, and I'm gonna still fighting to release Marighella in Brazil.
You know, is there a little part of you that finds it a little bit strange to be on a narco set and not actually be acting?
I don't think so. No.
Did that happen right after?
I came. I had a weird moment in Narcos. That's where when I came back to the. I made like a little scene in the Mexican Narcos
Right.
thing.
The one with Diego
In the
Luna.
fifth,
Right.
in the fifth episode, I had this scene with Diego Luna where I had to come back to Narcos, and that was like already like 1 year or I don't know, long again, and I was thin again. You know, I didn't have the mustache, so they put a wig on me and a mustache. And
Did
a
it feel
little
like the
thing.
same guy?
I felt like I was an imitation of myself. When I was there, I was like a simulacrum. I was like, "Oh man, what is?" I thought that I was imitating myself.
Right.
That was really weird, but the scene ended up good. I liked the scene.
You know, the big. I would imagine everyone's seen the first 2 seasons, so it's not spoilers. But do you want to talk about the big finale, your big finale? You know, on top and
Yeah, there was a very, you know, that we shot that scene at the very same place where Pablo was killed.
wow.
He was killed over there on that roof. So it was a little, you know, yeah, it was, and but at the same time, I was happy, and like I said, I was relieved that we were finishing. I loved the director, the guy who directed that last episode, Andy Baez, a Colombian guy, and I like the way he shot it. I like the way the scene goes, and I like the way I really like that last episode. There was one scene that I particularly love, which is the scene where Pablo meets Gustavo in a square, and they talk, and I think that's a beautiful, one of the most beautiful scenes of the show, and yeah, it was great, but it was heavy. It was heavy energy.
Do you how have your where are you in terms of committing that kind of time when you gave 2 years, more than 2 years to both seasons? Is that a commitment that you're willing to make again if the right role came along? Do you feel like that's just too much time spent on a character? Now that you've sort of been through it, how do you look at that?
Right now, if someone talks to me about a series, it should be about a limited
Right.
thing. You know, I'm not into. I don't want to commit myself to being in a series that I don't know when this is gonna end.
Right.
You know that this can take 5 years, and then it's crazy because you have to root for the thing not to be successful. Because if
Right.
it is, you're gonna
So that
be
you can
you're
have
gonna
a
be
life.
in there for forever. I don't want to do that. I want to be more jumping from one thing to the other. If the series is something really cool, and then it better be a limited one.
You know, you live in Los Angeles now, which is sort of the nerve center, the pulse point of the business. What is that? How has life changed?
No, I mean, no, not really. I mean, I think it's been a great experience for my family to live in LA. So I have my kids speaking English, and they go to a bilingual school so they can speak English and Spanish. At home, we only speak Portuguese. So I think it's been great. I mean, and I wanted to be there. Brazil is in such a horrible moment right now, and as I'm being very vocal in there, sometimes it's not nice to be there, and and uh, and like I said, I have this things that I want to produce, so it's good to be in LA, and so. Oh, you want to talk to some so and so tomorrow? Yeah, sure.
Right.
So I don't need to call or Skype or
Sure.
So.
Right around the corner. Okay, we're going to open it out to questions in a minute, but I feel like before we do, is there one piece of advice that you'd give? Because I would imagine there's a bunch of actors in this room, but what is the one key piece of advice that you'd give to young actors who are hoping to have an exciting career, one that gives them deep fulfillment?
I don't know. I would rather to answer their questions because it's than giving a generic
Right. Okay.
thing about it. I'm not sure.
Sure. Maybe they'll have specific ones. Yeah, okay. If we have mics, right? The gentleman in the blue t-shirt. Guys, keep it to questions. Let's just make them questions and don't make them, I have 3 questions, I have 6 questions. We want as many people to get some time in the room.
Okay, my question is for Wagner. Like, in 2013, you started Marigela project. Marigela, you are talking like you started, and like after that, you went on to doing Narcos also. So how do you manage those both projects simultaneously? How do you like specify you as a Pablo Escobar and director of Marigela, like side by side? How do you manage that?
It wasn't difficult at all. I finished. I wrapped my Narcos in 2016, I think, but I was working with so I started Marighella in the 13. So when I went to I started writing the script, working with the script writer and trying to think about how the film would be and and the financing parts of it. So while I was in Colombia working in Narcos, I was all the time, calling people and Skyping and talking to people and working with the script writer, who, by the way, took these 2 years. Like he did an amazing job, because he basically worked alone during these two years. But the thing went like in a very slow pace. When I wrapped Narcos in 16, then I went back to Brazil, and then things started to move really, really fast, because my presence there, my physical presence, made things like work faster. But it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard at all. And when I wrapped Narcos, I was like really into doing that. Like so Narco was already gone, so now I could just give myself completely to that thing.
Okay. The gentleman here in the second row, or if you, yeah, okay.
Hello. I want to ask you a more, political question. On one side, we are seeing not just in Brazil but across the world, there is this rise of far right, leaders, and they are finding acceptance, including, the Brazil president is going to be coming to India and guest at Republic Day. So, what do you make of this rise of far right leaders across the world? Why is it happening?
I think that there are so many things to discuss about it. Everything. Talking about this Latin American case specifically, like in Ecuador, Bolivia. You see the coup d'etat in Bolivia that ousted President Evo Morales. The president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, is living in the exilium. He can go back to Ecuador, otherwise he's going to go to jail. In Brazil, Lula was imprisoned for. There was a movement to oust the left from. We lived from 2002 in Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, Bolivia, especially Uruguay, a golden age of social movements, and Lula was the guy who attacked, for the only president of Brazil who attacked our biggest and obvious problem with social difference, the difference between the guys who have a lot of money and the majority of the population who is completely in a misery. So that worked for a while until the moment that this elite that always controlled our countries realized that that wasn't satisfying them the way it should, and then they started to work the way they always worked, you know, to oust, provoking coup d'etats and ousting presidents all around South America. Then there was another thing that I think it was really important, which the thing of the fake news, the way the information is spread out with no control, and the fact that that you can lie whenever you want and no one will pay attention on it. And there is this research that says that President Trump lies 11 times per day, and no one really cares. You know, so I think that and the right wingers, they for somehow with Cambridge Analytica or all those, they knew how to manage the social this thing in the internet in a way that we couldn't do it. Left wingers, we are still like trying to understand. Also because they work with things that people that have honesty don't want to do. You know, I don't want to lie to win an election. I don't want to, you know, so it's. I think that there is still technology is still something that we are figuring out in terms of politics. How to figure that out in terms of election. The other day I saw that you can make, in terms of technology, you can really make a guy like me saying here and talking a lot of shit, and it's not me. You know what I mean? You can build my face and my voice. So this is gonna go to a place that I have no idea how this is. What scares me most is that the truth, how we know it, it's over. And that scares me a lot. You know, so this, of course, Bolsonaro won the election in Brazil based on a lot of lies and fake news, but also our media, the journalism itself made in Brazil, it's very corrupted and it's controlled by the very same elite that wants to, that it's not interesting in people's sake, but in making the same elite still make them still making the kind of money that they do. So it's sort of a complex question. This question that you did. Of course, in Europe, it's a different. There's a different thing, but it's also it's basically the same. I think it's basically the same in a different, but in a different cultural. It's a struggle about. It's not about capitalism or socialism anymore. It's about human decency and and thinking about yourself and your own profits and things like that.
Yeah, I have another question about your earlier two films, Tropa the Elite. The first film was more about glorifying this yourself, Capitão Nascimento, the police officer, and the second film was more about telling the story from the drug dealer's kind of point of view. So what changed between the first and the second film?
I don't think the first film glorifies Nascimento. That was the biggest, and when we won the Golden Bear in Berlin, the Golden Bear was given to us by Costa Gavras, right? Who is the biggest left-winger director in the world. So that was a big relief, because I was really bummed by the fact that people, especially in Brazil, the press was saying that this is a fascist film, this is a right-winger film, this is a film that glorifies. No one says that Coppola agrees with Michael Corleone. Why would be supporting what Nascimento does. I think that Elite Squad is a film that tries to understand the way not the police, but how the state deals with violence in the country, and the police and the way that the police operates. It's an obvious result of that violently. In terms, it's a police that's violent, it's racist, you know. It's there. It's a police that torture, that kills. You can see that. I mean, but my job as an actor is to make, like the way we were talking about Pablo, is to make that man not a monster but a human being that, you know, is afraid of things, that has a son that's like that. So I don't agree with that, but I understand your question, because the second film, having as we knew how the first one went, we operated, so we worked for the second one to be more precise and to be more clear in our position as so in the second film you see that Nascimento, that it's a character that didn't have any sort of conscience in the first one, had started to think about what was going on. So in the second one he was like, okay, what's going on here? Why am I doing this? Why am I killing? Why am I torturing? Why am I? So it's a question. It's a character that starts to question himself in a way that I think that makes the audience question themselves too, the way they didn't do in the first one.
Okay. The gentleman here in the white shirt, we can give him a mic.
Coming back to Narcos, you literally lived that character for a very, very long time. And of course, everybody says that there's a bad side to that character. But while playing Narcos and living that life and living his character, did you at any point of time start thinking like the way he would have thought? In the sense that, did you at any point of time start justifying the path that Pablo took? And also taking into account the fact that that Pablo gave back a lot to his society and to his people and helped them and so on and so forth. So did that thought come into your mind? And
yeah, I mean, you cannot judge the character when you play it, right? So I was, but of course I am aware of, this is the thing, man. I think that the Robin Hood sort of drug dealer is an invention that, especially that became very popular with Pablo, but it's something that's spread out. I mean, in Brazil, that's because these guys occupy a space in poor neighborhoods that the state historically doesn't. You know, the state, if you go to a favela, you're only going to see the state in the form of the police. When you see the police, that's the only part of the state that you're going to see in the poor neighborhood. You don't see hospitals, you don't see schools, you don't see books, you don't see places where people can. You don't see jobs. You only see the police. So it's not only thinking about Pablo, but thinking about the people that live there. How come can't you identify yourself to the guy who goes like, oh, hey, this is a house for you. You know, this is medicine. This is, and you cannot blame. There is a place in Colombia called in Medellin called Barrio Pablo Escobar, which is the neighborhood where Pablo. That you go there, and there is a wall where you see a picture of Jesus Christ and a picture of Pablo. And I don't judge these people at all. I know that Pablo is a killer. Pablo was a very mean human being, but there is a complexity of things that you cannot just you have to see it.
a very quick second question, if I may. Of all the scenes that you did, I know this is a tough one. Can you pick out a few moments which you really liked in terms of scenes? You spoke about that scene in the park, perhaps a scene where you say goodbye to your family when you go into hiding, when you kiss your daughter and your son. So if you could just pick out a couple of scenes which for you.
There was this thing about Pablo that I really identified with, which is Pablo was a family man. He was very concerned about his family, and he died while he was talking to his family, and so I became really close to the actors that were playing my wife, my mother, the kids. We had a very close relationship. We were living in all of us living in the actress that plays my mother is from Chile. It's an amazing actress called Paulina Garcia. Tata Paulina Gaitán is from Mexico. So we were not Colombians, and we were living at the same city. We were going out, hanging out all the time. So we were really close. All the scenes with my family, and I was taking care of those little kids at some point as if they were my own kids. But because I have 3 kids as well, and at some point they were not there, and so there was all this sort of projections that you make when you're doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the gentleman here, and then the one at the back after that.
My question is, what do you think about Amazon forest, and have you any upcoming project related to environment? Any film that?
Yeah, it's so sad. It's so again, you're gonna see me talking about this government, the Bolsonaro government here many times if I can, to say that it's the worst government in the history of this country. I've never seen, not even during the dictatorship, a project of destruction of a country the way I'm witnessing now in Brazil. So this is the sort of people that deny global warming, that say this kind of shit, that global warming is not really happening. Or actually the Brazilian, the Minister of International, how do you say this? The Chancellor, the international, the guy who is responsible, represents Brazil everywhere abroad, said, he said that global warming is a result of a Marxism, the cultural Marxism. So this kind of crazy, stupid thing. So you see Amazon burning under these guys, and you go and you wonder why. Of course, because they don't believe in global warming. They think that this, and also it's worse than that, because it's an economical agenda as well. So they forgave the debt of all the big landowners in Brazil that under our previous forest code couldn't if Amazon burned under their, or if they destroyed in their lands, they would receive like a big tax. How do you say this? A penalty. They would have to pay a lot. Under Bolsonaro, everybody is forgiven. So no one really cares. When you have a president that says that global warming doesn't exist, it empowers you to burn it out, to destroy it. Or when you have a president that says that torture is good, it empowers you to torture. Or when you have a president that don't respect women, empowers you to to be sexist. Or when you have a president that is homophobic, it empowers you to act like that. You know what I mean? Even if it's not a law, his presence, the way he speaks, his mere existence empowers people the worst in their human behaviors.
Okay, gentleman there.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. I'm here. Sir, as we all love you and we all are your fan, I did find a animation picture on Google about Narcos poster. I just made it a portrait for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I just want to show you.
Thank you so much. Did you do it? Yes. Oh, that's really good, man. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
The gentleman in the white headband.
Hello. Yeah, see Pablo. That was the thing which I keep hearing pretty often. See, I'm having a bit of a fan moment now. So, yeah, I hail from a very small city in Andhra Pradesh, which is like a really small place. And I've heard people talking about Narcos, like, you know, a few old men, like 60s in maybe later 70s, you can say. They're just sitting under a roof, under a tree, and they might have seen Narcos, it seems. They were discussing about the characters of Escobar as well as Pina. So they were taking stands on the moralities of both of them. Like, you know, they were just rather discussing it. See, my question to you is, leaving Escobar aside, what other character do you feel is more, you know, powerful, or maybe more, you know, which you find like, you know, could be dominating you in the series, or whatever it might be?
That could be what? Sorry, a character that
The
what?
character which is equally competitive for you, like, I mean, opposite character, thinking you as an antagonist. What would you consider as a protagonist in that entire series?
I think that Pena and Murphy were the other, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because they're not the good guys either.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
I mean,
that was the argument which was going on. Like, someone was taking the side of Escobar, someone was talking about Pena giving and
I
sleeping
love
around.
that. I love that about Narcos, because that's not the regular American show where the good cops chase the bad dude, right? It's that the cops are kind of bad.
Yeah.
You know, they're I don't think they're good guys at all.
Which they usually are.
And they represent the intervention that the U.S. has been having in all South America. You know, what are these American dudes doing there? You know, in Colombia, and sending people to extraditing people to the U.S. from the Colombian. I found that very weird too. I mean, the U.S. were actually, when we were talking about all these coups d'etats in South America, the CIA, they were involved in all of them. You know, after the Cuban Revolution back in '58, they were like, oh, this is not gonna happen here anymore. So therefore, they basically provoked all the coups d'etats in Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Uruguay. You know, yeah, they're.
Okay, let's go at the back. Let's the gentleman all the way in the back.
Hello, sir. So you said getting out from the character is a process for you itself, and especially when you do a biopic, for the audience also, when they relate to the character as much as the actor. So when you go to the next project, how difficult it is for you, because you know, people still associate with you with the previous characters. So how difficult it is to, you know, get out of it from the people's mind also and work on it.
Yeah, sorry, what's the question?
How difficult is it to get out of people's minds?
Yeah.
I mean, you got out of the character and you moved on to the next one. But how hard is it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because people still associate with you with the old, like, you've come here with a. Like,
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't really think about that. I think that's more like for me to clean up myself and to jump into another universe, in another character, in another, you know, trying to be honest with this new character and to do it like honestly. And but I understand that when you play a character that it's very popular, it must be hard for people to see you in another role. I mean, right? Maybe this is what you, and yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's hard for I imagine it's hard to when I watch any film with Daniel Craig, I go, oh, this is James Bond playing this new character, and I think that this is, yeah. I think it's hard. It's hard. There are actors that they're gonna be forever marked for one character. Uh, I hope I can do things without carrying Pablo for the rest of my of my life. At least I'm not chubby anymore.
Okay. The lady there, yeah, in the back. No? Okay, yeah.
Not a lady.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah. My question is, when you're playing characters as grey and as evil as they are presumed to be, like Pablo, it is very difficult as an actor to connect with the character unless you find a humanity in them. So what was the humanity that you found in Pablo? I'm guessing it could be the love for the family or the intense desire to be loved, but is there something else? And secondly, did your career as a journalist help your career as an actor in any way?
Yeah, I'm a journalist, and I graduated as a journalist, and I think that was very important for me, especially because of the things that I read at the university. Those things like really opened a space for me to think about, reading Marcuse or Benjamin, or the theory of communication, and those things were really great. When I was doing journalism, I was already working a lot as an actor, especially on stage as a stage actor. And talking about humanity, I think that when we talk about humanity, we always think about good things, but humanity is also the dark places of makes us humans as well, right? And the thing is, we all have it. We all have it in ourselves. We don't expose them. We don't because of our each of us we have different perspectives, and so, but we all have it. So the thing is to dig for it and to look for it and to bring it out, which is it's a difficult and not a pleasant thing to do, but you sort of have to do it. But Pablo was a very complex guy, and there are so many things about him, so many books that I could research, and there were some images of him. So the amount of materials about Pablo was extraordinary. I read basically everything that was written about him, not only in English but in Spanish, and he was a very interesting man. He was a very he had this obviously his dark side, but he was also charismatic, and he was very loyal to his close friends, to his family. He really loved Gustavo and his, he really loved his sons and his son and his daughter, his wife, and so yeah, it wasn't difficult actually. It's hard to connect with the bad vibe of it, with the dark spaces that we all have, but this is what we do.
We only have time for one more question. Let's give it to the gentleman in the white. Yeah. Is there a mic there?
It changed a lot, not only physically, but especially, like I said, I can't even say exactly what was that changed me, but like I was saying in the beginning, it's a change that takes place in your body, not only because I became bigger, because I gained weight, but because there was something there, it's hard even to explain. There was something in your body that you were every day. You conjure it's sort of magic. If you're bringing energy, you're bringing, you're conjuring an energy every day that you're dealing with. So, yeah. I think that people are too much impressed with gaining weight and losing weight, because basically everybody can do that. What I think it's really more powerful, I mean, but of course it shows that the actor is really committed to that thing. But gaining weight and losing weight is not the point. I think the point is what is that energy that quality that you are bringing, that electricity that you have. Christian Bale is an amazing actor. When you see him, I'm more impressed with the sort of electricity that comes out of what he does than the physical changes itself.
Yeah. Thank you, Wagner.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for
so
receiving
much.
me here. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was lovely. Thank you very much.